executive order for your attention on the very important subject of election integrity. We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, that was Donald Trump signing an executive order leaning into election integrity. I know that sounds nebulous, but this is something that off camera you and I spoke about, and you had sounded the alarms about this in a way that you don't usually do. So can you explain why this is particularly disturbing?
Yeah, it's disturbing because Donald Trump is now bringing the same unhinged dictatorial energy to the area of voting rights that you have seen him bring to everything else. You know, people are used to Donald Trump being an election denier. People are used to Donald Trump making, spurious and outrageous claims. They understand that he will also, advocate for anti-voting policies. But this is the most concrete sign we have seen so far that he will issue executive orders that, number one, he doesn't have the authority to issue, right? I mean, he is saying that he is going to do things that are actually not the purview of the President of the United States. But number two, he's going to do things that would so fundamentally alter the way in which people understand the voting process to happen in a free and fair election that it would damage. And then number three, some of the stuff in the executive order, someone said to me, when they read it, they're like, it looks like Donald Trump dictated part of it. And then they took the part that he dictated and they put it into an AI chatbot and spit out the rest. Some of it is just hard to make heads or tails of, but it is an indication of where he's going. And at the end of what he says, and I don't know whether you played this part of the clip or not, at the end of what he says that there will be more in the coming weeks. So he's not done attacking free and fair elections. This is, he knows, the thing that is his Achilles heel. He knows the courts will stand up to him, but he really knows that given how unpopular his policies are, given that he has allowed Elon Musk to do all the things that Elon Musk has done and Doge to do all the things that they've done, he knows that he is facing a hostile electorate. After all, the Republicans are hiding in their town halls. You've done a lot of reporting on that. And so he is trying now to lay down a marker to shift the Overton window about free and fair elections.
Now, look, I want to discuss this in a more strategic way. And so I think the way to do that is not just to encounter each thing as it happens and we just react to it. I want to be able to take a little bit of a proactive approach. And so to that point, then, what is the natural conclusion of what he's looking to do? Yes, he's chipping away at voting rights right now. Yes, he's going to sign these executive orders. Yes, there will be more executive orders. But what's the end goal for him? He's trying to normalize us to all of this stuff by doing it on a step-by-step basis, knowing full well that he has a very specific goal that he wants to see at the end. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it has two main components to it. The first is to restrict voting to a single day. No early voting, no mail-in voting, just in-person voting on election day. I think that he has been very clear about that. You can read Project 2025. They are relatively clear on that point. He has said this at various times, and that is the thing. But the second is the key, right? That's the how you vote. The second part, though, is who gets to vote. And what he does is he dresses this up in a number of cloaks and sort of obfuscations. He'll talk about non-citizens voting. He'll talk about voter registration fraud. What he wants is he wants him and his political cronies to be the determiner of who gets to vote and who doesn't get to vote. It's not just an objective test. It is a subjective test. It's something that he and the people who he believes are on his side get to decide. So that's why you see voter challenges being empowered, right? Because voter challenges are a way that right-wing vigilantes can disenfranchise voters they don't like, right? It's the reason why he says we need proof of citizenship. Proof of citizenship is not actually about citizenship. It's just building into the process another way for someone to say, I don't think they're a citizen, or they haven't proved to me they're a citizen, right? So that's the second part. The third, which we heard a lot about before his last election, and it is not present here, but I promise you, mark this video, we will have it before too long, is who gets to count the votes and who gets to certify the election. So it is restricting how people vote, it is restricting who can vote, and then ultimately it will be, he will focus on who gets to count the votes and how they're certified.
Well, all of this raises the obvious question, which is that it is the prerogative of the states, not the federal government, to administer their own elections. And so how much oversight would the federal government be allowed to have over state elections, given the fact that it's not in the Constitution? This isn't some power that is delegated to the federal government. This is something that is the prerogative of each individual state.
Yeah, look, that is one of our great strengths, but this is, Brian, the trap that the legacy media keeps bringing the rest of us into, which is that Donald Trump doesn't have the power to do a lot of things. I mean, the Department of Education is a department established by Congress, by act. USAID is a department, is an agency of the federal government established by law.
Right. And so when we just say, oh, they can't do that as if it's self-executing, that ignores the fact that they are doing these things right now, and that if there is no actual bulwark, if there's nothing stopping them from doing it, they're going to barrel ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, and that's the risk, right? The risk is that he just says, that's all well and good that the states think they get to decide this, I get to decide it. And by the way, states, if you don't do it my way, I will drop the sword of Damocles on you. You know,
withdraw federal funding like he's doing for Maine right now.
Yeah. And look, and you know, and it reminds me, you know, there have been a lot of discussions over time about what Republicans can do in Congress and can't do in Congress, and how the CBO and the parliamentarian and everybody, you know, they are the arbiters of whether something is in bounds or out of bounds. And you've been the first one to point out, like, when the Republicans come to power, they're like, you know what, we don't like that. We don't like that one.
Okay, so let's finish off with this. What then can states do or other entities do right now to prevent the natural conclusion of what Trump is trying to do from happening? What preventative steps, what proactive action can we take right now in light of the fact that we already know what his end goal is?
Yeah, so I think there are three things we all need to do. Number one, as citizens, and as in your case and in the case of Democracy Docket, as the media and the legacy media is listening, we cannot accede to him power he does not have. We have to stop saying that he has the power to do things, or assuming he has the power to do. We need to make clear, as you just did, as you called out, that this is a state function. It is actually a state function that Republicans have historically said belongs to the states. It has usually been Republicans who have said there is not a federal role here. It is a role of the state. So that's number one. Number two, we need to be ready to litigate. I've already said that my law firm will bring litigation against this, and it needs to be an all of the above. It needs to be private litigation. It needs to be state AG litigation. It needs to be, everyone needs to treat this as the 5-alarm fire it is, just like all of the other illegal actions he's doing. And then the third is on the state officials, right? The state officials need to say, look, there are certain things we can compromise with the federal government on, there are certain things we can't. One of the things we are not going to compromise on with respect to the federal government is our elections. That is our democracy. And it is not up for debate. It is not up for negotiation. There is no start point to the negotiation. There is no midpoint to the negotiation. There is no memorandum of understanding to be had here. This is our prerogative, and we simply reject the idea that the federal government is going to intrude here.
Marc, we've done almost 300 episodes of Democracy Watch. We're going
to get a cake.
We're going to get a cake
for the first 100, and you didn't get me a cake for the second 100.
I bailed on the second 100 because I'm waiting for a bigger cake on the third 100.
Okay, because I feel a little neglected.
Yeah, that notwithstanding, I have to say that I know I can speak on behalf of my entire audience in saying that if we saw that same degree of fight that you're showing right now, we would be in a much better, much safer position in our democracy. So, you know, I know I speak for a lot of people in thanking you for bringing forward exactly the amount of fight, exactly the amount of urgency that we need to get out of this moment right here. And I hope that anybody watching who is in a position of power, that is the exact posture that we should see from every single elected official in government right now. That is the way in which you have to meet the moment, because that is showing the urgency that this moment deserves. So for anybody watching, if you want to support Marc and his team and the posture that they're bringing to this fight, which is the one that we need right now, a small step that we can all take to do that is to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the news outlet he founded to focus on everything voting and elections. I use it on a daily basis. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.